Hi, welcome to the Career Corner. My name is Heather Swift and I'm delighted to be your host. The purpose of the Career Corner is to help people move from career distress to career success. Well, today we're going to shake things up a little bit. My special guest is the drummer for Guns N' Roses, Mr. Frank Ferrer. Frank, welcome to the Career Corner.
Thank you, Miss Heather.
Finally, after a couple years, it's worked out. You're in town,
Yes.
and we finally get to kind of chat and figure out the man behind the music. So,
Awesome. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. We often talk to people about different kind of careers they have and how to get into them, tips, do's, and don'ts and stuff like that. So I thought how fun for, young musicians, that are trying to grow up and figure out,
Sure.
could I actually do this too, and kind of, what could be in store for me. So would you take us back a little bit? I'd love to know, when did you first know that you wanted to be a musician? And did you ever think you'd get to this level when you were younger?
Well, there was always music in my house growing up. My father was a Latin percussionist. So there was always rhythms and salsa music, Latin music, Afro-Cuban music.
Does that mean you're a good dancer also?
I'm a pretty good dancer.
Okay.
I know a lot of people say I think I am.
As long as you think.
I have a
that's
sense
the
of
important
rhythm.
thing.
So there was always music in the house. So I always loved music. And then around the age of 10 or 11, my older sister started buying records, and started introducing me to American music because I was only listening to like salsa and Latin music at the house, right? So the very first rock song I ever heard was Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes. Yeah.
And I had no idea what it was, but I just knew that it was the most intense thing I've ever heard in my life. And I would turn the B-side, it was a 45. B-side was I'm in Love with My Car, which is another insane Queen song, And then one day I saw Kiss on TV. They were on a TV show. And I thought Queen was Kiss. I couldn't, I have no idea at this, I'm 10, 11 years old. I have no idea like what rock music is. I just think it's just one band doing all this music. So I kind of thought that Kiss was Queen, so I saw them on a TV show one time, and my sister heard on the radio that they were playing Madison Square Garden. And I asked my dad if he'd take us to go see Kiss. And my father loved music, so he thought it was kind of like a baile, which is in Latin music, the band will play, but people will dance, and it'll be like at a dance hall, So my father had no idea. None of us, we didn't,
What was his reaction when the makeup and the whole?
We got home that night, and he was gonna throw my records out. He wanted to throw them out in the garbage. He was like, Gene Simmons does the whole thing where he bleeds.
Oh, I forgot about
he
that.
vomits the blood and all that kind of
Yes.
stuff.
Oh, no.
So my father thought it was the most craziest thing that he's ever seen, and he couldn't believe that we were into that music. He took my older sister also, because my sister was like, I want to come too, But that night changed my whole entire life. When the lights went down and that crowd roared, I was hooked. I had no idea what was going on, who was doing it, and how you did it, but I knew I had to do that. So it was that night in December 1977 I realized I wanted to play music.
That's awesome. And did you specifically think, okay, I like the drummer. I think I could do the drummer?
I kind of fell into drums because obviously the guitar player was the star of the show. Ace Frehley was the star of the show. So of course I wanted to be a guitar player. I wanted to be a front. And then and my parents got me some guitar lessons, and I fiddled around. And I always had a sense of rhythm, and I put this little group together in my room. My friends Jose Maldonado and Frankie Corona would come over, and we'd jam. And Jose had this little drum set because he wanted to play drums. His parents actually bought him a drum set, and we carried it all to my house in Chelsea, in my apartment, my parents' apartment. And we play, terribly. We were awful. I'm a terrible guitar player.
Better to find that out young.
I know, right, exactly. And I would like, no, Jose, you have to play the beat like this, And I just kind of knew how to play. I don't really. There wasn't a moment that I kind of figured it out. I kind of just knew what it should sound like, and what the bass drum would do, and what the snare drum would do. So I wanted to play guitar, I wanted to play bass, but I would just go back to the drums, and then one day, I actually went to a band audition for a high school. I went to Power Memorial High School, which doesn't exist anymore, and they had band auditions, and obviously I didn't know what instrument to play, and they had a drum set, and I sat behind the drum set and I played it, and I guess that moment was like, okay, I guess I'm a drummer now, I had a natural rhythm for it, But at that point, I wasn't in love with the instrument yet. Now I'm totally in love with the instrument. But at that point, I wasn't in love with the instrument because it was sitting in the back. It wasn't in the front. Like, you know,
Yes.
it wasn't a spotlight.
There was a barricade between you and all the screaming ladies.
Right. So, yeah.
So that was the
Barricade.
first
It's
time
like
you-
barricades. That's the perfect description of my
Yeah, but
drum
that
set.
keeps all the songs going, though.
Right.
You know, all that percussion and the drumming.
Right.
So you had your first taste of it then, and did you end up getting like lessons? Did you were you self-taught?
I'm pretty much self-taught. I did take lessons. I did take some lessons. You know, my parents couldn't afford me being a drummer. It's kind of expensive being a drummer, sticks, heads, and all that kind of stuff. So I did take some lessons, but the way I learned was pretty much self-taught. And what I did was I decided that I needed to see as many drummers as possible, so I would carry their equipment. I was kind of like a tech.
That was clever.
You know,
So
right.
you got mentored by
Exactly. I got to
yourself in
see.
there.
Well, first off, I got to meet a lot of people. I got to see a lot of great drummers play, and in some situations, I even ended up playing with some of the artists that I carried their drummers gear for. You know, so that was my schooling. You know, was kicking around carrying other drummers' gears. You know.
And so I know you played for the Psychedelic Furs.
Yes, that was great.
That was,
I
that
love
name
Richard
popped
Butler.
out to me there, which is very
Yeah.
exciting. And at what point how did you get yourself to the point where you were, people were checking you out and you were getting the opportunity to even audition for these kind of bands and heading towards Guns N' Roses?
And when I was, the thing I figured out really early on was you had to be seen. Obviously, this is before YouTube and all this kind of stuff. So I played with almost every single band that asked me to play with them. Almost every single, and then it turned out a gig. Reggae, disco. My very first real band that I actually got some money from was a disco band that played covers. I realized that I had to be seen. And then I kind of worked myself into this. There was this club in Times Square that hosted a rock night every Monday night, and it was pretty popular because it had a cable TV show attached to it. And back in the '80s, that was a big deal to get on cable TV, because the MTV and all that kind of stuff was happening. So everybody wanted to see video, And I ended up being the drummer of the house band every Monday night at this place, and it was over a couple of summers. The band I ended up getting signed with came through, played a show, then we played after them, the house band, we just covers and stuff. And they were about to get rid of their drummer. I met those guys there, Jonathan and Tony, and they were like, hey, join our band, and I joined their band, and 2 years later, we were signed to Warner Brothers,
Wow.
And then the snowball, then we played, we toured, and I met a lot of people. I met the guitar player who's in Guns N' Roses now, Richard Fortas, back then with his band Pale Divine, and The Beautiful opened up for them in St. Louis, and Richard was about to start working with Richard Butler of the Furs, so that's how I ended up in Love's Beloved, then Psychedelic Furs, was because I had met Richard on that tour in St. Louis in 1992.
Wow.
So Richard, who's in Guns N' Roses, I've been playing with him since 1992.
That's some good history there.
Yeah, and a ton of projects.
We'll have to have him on next to tell some stories about you.
Yes, he lives in New York City. Yeah. You don't want to hear stories about me.
Sure.
I'm already uncomfortable to talk about myself as it is. To sit here and listen to someone else talk about me? No.
You're like, forget that.
Yeah, forget that.
Oh my goodness. So, when you were younger, was there a particular mentor that was in the music world, or that was like, Frank, you have a gift and let me help you get to that next level?
I had one specifically exactly like that. His name is Mr. Gomez, Curtis Gomez, my music teacher. And
from your elementary school, from your public school?
From my elementary school, but I mean, he was my mentor. I mean, my life mentor. How to behave and interacting with other musicians and other people, and he was like he was really my father figure in a sense, because my dad, who worked really hard to feed us, came home, worked all day, came home, and wasn't really a part of our lives in that way,
Not a lot of playtime when you're working a lot.
No. He was, he was a true Latino male. He took care of he paid the bills. He made sure we were fed. We went to private school. My parents put us through private school, Catholic school,
Wow, God bless.
And that was all, that was my mom and my dad busting their can I say ASS?
Busting their tissues, yeah.
I'm sorry if I'm breaking any rules. And,
No, it's good. I think that one can slide.
So I didn't really have that relationship with my dad growing up. You know?
Okay.
So Mr. Gomez saw something in me, and I'll tell you the story. He had the New York City Youth Chorus, which was like this chorus that played around New York City. It was really popular and really fun. And I auditioned. I sang and auditioned, and he was like, it's like.
So at least he was kind enough to be honest with you.
Oh, he's super honest, and he was like, no, and I was like, he was like, could you do anything else? And you know, this is before I started playing the kit, so I was like, well, my dad has these bongos at the house that I play around with, you know.
Like daylight come.
Yeah, pretty much. pretty much. That's exactly what it was. And then he was like, why don't you bring them in tomorrow, and then you could play along with me and see what you have. So I came in. The next day, and I played along with him. He was like, "Whoa, you have rhythm. You have a good sense of rhythm. You know, you stay with me. You join the choir. You play. You're gonna be the percussionist in the choir." So Mr. Gomez took me under his wing, you know, and we became really good friends. And I owe it all to him, really. He was the one that really was like, "There's something in you. You could do this." You know. We also prepared to audition for LaGuardia. It's called LaGuardia now. Back then it was called School of Music and Art. You know, like Fame, the TV show.
Yes.
And I auditioned 2 times. I didn't make it either time. And I remember sitting in that classroom, bummed out, because a couple of kids from the choir made it, and I didn't make it. You know. And I was bummed. I was like, I suck. I'm not good. And Mr. Gomez, remember, he looked at me. He's like, "Why do you do this? Why do you play music?" And I was like, "Man, I love it. I can't do anything else." He's like, so don't worry about it. Screw them. Like, we worked really hard to go to this audition, to get into this school, and then I didn't get in. He was like, so what? I mean, and it just made me realize that it's about opportunities, and it's about what you really want to do. If it's in here, then it doesn't matter if a school wants you or doesn't want you. You just keep doing it, you know.
You have to persevere.
All the way. Can't give up.
There's a lot of sayings, good luck or good skill, opportunity, but nothing happens unless you keep going.
Right.
Even against adversity.
Sometimes, and then, you hear, "Oh, you're not that good," and stuff like that. And sometimes you have to kind of like stare in the mirror, look in the mirror, and really decide, whether you feel you're good enough. Sometimes there might be something that you don't feel you're good enough in, and I thought that I was good enough, A lot of people didn't think so at the time, but, I kept it going. So
you kept reminding them, I am good enough.
Yeah.
We're going to break for a quick second here, and then we'll be right back after this quick message.
Once you're hit by a train, this is the size of bag that we'll use to collect what's left of you on the tracks.
It was a horrible tragedy that could have been averted if we had just stayed off the tracks.
I don't want to have to be the one that has to go tell your parents that you're dead.
Make the right choice. Stay off the tracks.
Hi, welcome back to the Career Corner. I'm here with my very special guest, Mr. Frank Ferrer, lead drummer for Guns N' Roses. So Frank, we were just talking about your mentor and how, that one person of just saying, I believe in you, and not giving up when working so hard to try to get into the school and, and adversity throughout that. Is he still around?
Yes, he's still alive, yes.
Okay,
If that's what you meant. But,
yes,
but
yes.
we haven't hooked up in a while.
But he knows what has happened with you.
Of course.
In your
I
home.
think my sister and Mr. Gomez speak often.
Okay.
Yes, he does.
That's so nice.
He's super busy too. He's always, he teaches at 3 or 4 schools.
Oh, gosh. So he's still going and helping with youth. Okay.
Yeah. He's piano player, choir leader, and he's awesome.
So now, as you started to make money for your passion,
right.
What are some stories you can share, like, to-dos and even more fun to actually hear about, or the don'ts of, like,
right.
What were some things you're like, oh man, I'm never going to do that again, or if I knew back then what I know now, what would you say?
There's a lot of those.
That could be hours, I'm sure.
I know.
Yeah, that'll be part 2.
I mean, being a musician and even being in a popular band like Guns N' Roses, you still have to, put money aside for rainy days.
Absolutely.
And stuff. I mean, being a musician, there isn't a retirement plan set up for you, any of that kind of stuff. So you always have to worry about tomorrow, even though you're having a ball today, it's still a struggle. Even today, it's still a struggle. You know, making sure that you know, I live a dual life. On one hand, I'm, you know, quote unquote a rock star. I mean, I don't feel that way, but a lot of people see it that way. But then the important part is that I'm Mr. Mom. You know, when I get home, you know, I'm divorced. My kid's mom works here in Maplewood, and she's works really hard to keep, you know, her home up and running. So when I get home, you know, I try to always dedicate my time and my effort to my children. You know, when I get home, when I'm home, I don't work that much. Like doing
When you're not on
sessions,
the
stuff
road,
like that.
you get to.
No, when I'm on the road, it's different. When I'm on the road, I'm gone. You
Yeah,
know, so I'm
yeah.
doing that 24 hours a day. So. There's I mean, do's and don'ts. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start. I mean, I know that I know an important do is like never neglect home. You know, home is super important. You get off the road, and when you come home, you have to make sure you're focused at home. You know, and not be, you know, be the person you are on the road.
Yeah.
You know,
You're like, hello, my daddy's here for breakfast. I think was it Jimmy Buffett? You know, totally different genre here, but quoting The Boss or something that like Friday night, you know, you have girls wanting to throw their bras on stage and cheering your name and screaming, and the next day you're the guy that makes the pancakes.
Right,
You know,
right.
it's like, hey dad, it's like whatever. You know.
like my kids don't know that person. They don't really
Yeah.
care about that person. That person doesn't exist to them. It's only Papa. When you get home, and did you bring me something?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, you just have a more unique kind of business trip. That's all.
Sure.
What is it like on the road? What was the biggest shift or biggest surprise when you started, you know, going on the road full time with Gina?
Well, the biggest problem, or I shouldn't say problem. The biggest part about being on the road is filling up your downtime. Gig days are the easiest days in the world. You know, you'll have a sound check. In the mid-afternoon, you know, get you prepared for the gig. You know, GNR has a reputation of playing late, so it's usually an all-nighter, you know. I mean, you won't be done back in your hotel room till 3 or 4 in the morning, you know.
Oh, wow.
The hardest thing about being on the road is filling up your time. You know, I love being on the road. I love being in different places, and I love playing shows. I hate traveling. I can't stand getting on planes and packing, and I can't stand that part. But filling up your time. I try to read a lot on the road, drink a lot less than I usually.
That's probably a good thing.
But you know, reading and stuff like that. The downtimes are tough. You know, GNR is such a huge production. We can't really play every single night like a band in a van that could play every night, 8 shows in a row. It's such a long, huge show, pyro, lights. So we don't play every night. So we'll play maybe 2 shows in a row, then we'll have a night or 2 off, then a show, then a night or 2 off. So the downtime is the toughest part about being on the road. And then you're missing home, you know.
Yeah.
You know, how many Law and Order episodes can you watch?
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, it's true. It's like, at least now you have devices you can take with you. You know,
Right,
old
right.
school days, it was like truly only books,
Right,
you know, and in that way.
Oh, I've left so many books in hotel rooms all over the world. That's why I'm glad I have the
You should start
iPad
autographing them before you leave. Like, here, I don't want this. Oh, my best Frank.
I didn't mean to leave this book behind. I must have left. A library worth of books. You know, you get on the plane or you leave them on the. That's the worst pocket. It's the one. Don't put anything in there. It will stay there. It'll stay there.
Yeah.
I always forget everything.
They're making it smaller where almost you can't even use it now.
Right.
So maybe that will help with that. You know, what would you say to any younger musicians that are kind of thinking, you know, how do I know if I should go for it or not? You think it kind of drives with really knowing your own passion? Because I'm sure a lot of parents, they're scared of that because it's not, you know, the stable route of, I want to be an accountant, or, you know what I mean? It's a different kind of route, but it almost sounds like if you can't do anything else but that to truly be happy and fulfill why you're here, then you know you got that bug, and you have to kind of see it through.
You know, the business is so different today. It doesn't seem like there's, at least, you know, in New York City, or the tri-state area, I would say, it doesn't seem like there's the kind of opportunities there was when I was playing. First off, the musicianship has kind of like gone down a little bit because now everyone is like kind of could produce and do their own things in their home, in their home studios. So I've noticed also that whole what's the right word for it? That whole grittiness about being a musician, the whole roughing it out, being, building calluses and that fortitude to really like, to play in a crappy club to no
pay your
one,
dues, to pay your
dues.
and,
That stuff doesn't seem to be happening anymore. I'm sure a lot of people disagree with me, but I mean, it seems like, you mentioned The Voice earlier. It seems like a lot of The Voice and American Idol and that kind of stuff.
They make it look a little easy.
It makes you kind of get the sense of like, oh, if I could just do this TV show, I could be a star. Yeah, maybe one person can, but millions of people audition for that stuff, And I think the paying your dues, you're getting your chops up, like you have to kind of suck for a while to get good. You can't just be good right off the bat. And you have to play with musicians that are better than you, or even if they're worse than you. I mean, you have to measure yourself against something. You have to, and you have to get better. I don't know if that's happening right now anymore. What I would tell a young musician, if they really, really want to do this, and I know YouTube is important, and Twitter and Facebook, those things are important, right? But they need to get out there and play as much as they can with as many different musicians as they can. They have to build musical relationships. Again, it's a different time now where, you could open up your computer and do GarageBand and record a song and never even meet another musician, which is like mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
But musical relationships to me are the foundation of being a musician. You wanna speak your language, and you wanna speak to other people that understand your language, and then hopefully that'll get out to people, and they'll learn your language, I don't see that happening, or I should say I don't know if it's happening. I haven't seen it much like the way it was. But I sound like one of those guys. 20 years ago.
I had snow up to here, and I carried my drum kit through it.
But I built a lot of musical relationships, and I understand a lot of musicians, because the more you play with different musicians, the you could pick out the patterns. You could see like, I mean, I'm going to get a little more specific. Oh, this bass player likes to play behind the beat, or that guitar player likes to play on top of the beat. But, I could see, especially when Richard Fortas and I have an amazing musical relationship. And sometimes in the midst of playing music, and there's like a swirl of music and noise and stuff, you can't figure out, what is he playing? But if I look at him, if I could see his body, I could tell what he's playing. I wouldn't even have to hear him actually playing, because I have a musical relationship with him, I know him so well, he knows me so well. All we do have to do is make eye contact, and boom, we're right there, I would suggest to a young musician to play with as many different musicians as you possibly can.
Get that experience and exposure.
You need to build musical relationships, which are very important. If you want to be dope, if you want to do GarageBand, I guess you don't have to,
Yeah, but if you want to really know your craft and be able to be versatile.
Yeah.
But I'm very impressed with how you said that you carried the drums for as many musicians as you could, because you learn from them, and that is paying your dues. But look at the fringe benefits you got from that. But that's like old school, like, hey, I'm gonna do it the hard way and really learn and get in there and earn
it was at that point it was my only avenue. It's all I could do. Grew up kind of poor in New York City, so I knew that I wanted to play, and I knew that I wanted to meet as many musicians as I could. And that was my best way, because I was also underage at that point, but I could get into a club if I carried somebody's gear.
Yeah, right.
I could walk in.
They're not carding the guy holding the drums.
Exactly.
So what would be? We're down to almost like a minute and a half now. I know time flies when you're having fun. So what would be an ending image, or like great time where you played, where you're like one of your best concerts or moments where you just had such a blast? Tell me.
Madison Square Garden. Got to play Madison Square Garden, the same spot where it all started for me. Guns went through, played Madison Square Garden. My mom was there. I got a limo, did the whole nine. I had the limo pick them up, bring them, because the limousine goes inside the garden. So got my mom inside the garden, and my sisters, and Olivia. Coltrane was a little baby, so Olivia came with me. She came with me to sound check. And I showed her where me and her grandfather sat, That was like my graduation. Both my sisters graduated college. I didn't graduate college. I wanted to play music. So that was like my graduation, And my mom got to see, my father passed, but my mom got to see it. So.
Nice. So your dad had the best seat in the house, though.
Yeah. My dad's right here with me right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so great. And like, what a nice conclusion to come home and play on home turf like that.
No,
Angela.
it was exactly. I shouldn't say it's exactly what I thought it was. It was much more than I thought it was, but it was exactly the way I dreamed it was going to be.
I'm so glad. That's a perfect way to end. Thank you so much for
Thank
being with
you.
me today.
Thank you, Ms. Heather. That was very
so,
cool.
Oh, it's so great having you on.
Is this thing over? I
Yeah.
can't believe.
Good job. And thank you all for tuning in, and check us out on YouTube for other episodes of the Career Corner. Until we meet again, I wish you much career success.